Hi there, I'm Woolly Wormhead and welcome to my channel. In today's tutorial, I would like to show you how to graft German short rows. Now, if you've watched any of my other tutorials on German short rows, or maybe even grafting, or if you've been to any of my classes, my workshops, or read any of my books, you might have noticed that I kind of like German short rows because they're easy to graft. I talk about that a lot. The reason they're easy to graft is because we treat them like a knit stitch. Now, I design a lot of sideways knit hats, especially in garter stitch and especially with Short-Row Colorwork. Let me just bring in an example here. This is a new design that's coming out in September 2025. It's worked sideways. The colorwork is also worked with short rows as well, but that's a topic for another day. Because it's worked sideways, we use short rows as the shaping method at the crown, because short rows are a shaping method. They're just used differently to increases and decreases, but they still create shaping. It means that the panels worked over and over and over, and it means that occasionally there will be, when you come to graft all this together, because that's how sideways knit hats have worked, you work a panel over and over and over again, then you graft them together, starting with a provisional cast on, finishing with a graft. There will be some short rows in the final row that gets grafted in the last panel. And so I thought today I would show you how I graft across German short rows, how easy it is, because really it's not difficult. German short rows are actually really easy to do themselves. Grafting them, not difficult at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to the overhead. I've got a little swatch here with a couple of short rows in it in different colours, and I'm going to graft it with another piece of plain bit of garter stitch and show you how easy this is to do, and so that you can try these techniques for yourself, because they're not difficult, they're just different. All right. Okay then, here I am with my swatches. This is the plain bit of garter stitch that we're going to graft onto. So I'll put that aside for a minute. And this is the swatch that I've got that has got a couple of German short rows on it. There's one there worked at the end of this purple stripe. Okay, there's the double leg stitch at the back, the disappeared stitch at the front. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, there is a longer German short row tutorial that I'll link to, so you can have a look through and understand the anatomy of a German short row more. There's another German short row here, double leg stitch in purple because it's worked on the row below, because this stripe has been worked in blue. There's the disappeared stitch. And just as a quick reminder about how to make a German short row, I'm just going to put another one in this purple, in the contrasting yarn. Okay, I'm just going to do it on a few stitches, just as a reminder of how to make them. I'm going to put German short row on this stitch here. So I've done K3, German short row there. Now, as you've heard me say before, this stitch needs to be slipped over to this needle. Whether you do it before or after you turn is entirely up to you. I do it after I turn. And I do it after I turn because if I slip this first and turn, this ends up getting really untidy and loose, and I'm at risk of dropping the stitch. But if you're a neater knitter than me, which most people are, then you can slip it beforehand, entirely up to you. So we slip it purlwise to maintain its orientation. We don't want to twist this. And my hot tip is to, because we're going to stretch this blue stitch that we knitted here all the way over the needle to create the double leg stitch. So my tip that I give to people to do is to anchor your needle in here in this next stitch that you're going to knit, because that then means that you can pull that yarn really, really tight. So that stitch that we knit, that we slipped over, that's going to get disappeared. And that's the disappeared stitch. This is going to be the double leg stitch. So pull that really nice and tight and then knit to the end of the row. So that's just a quick reminder on how to work German short rows. I say I have a longer tutorial available. And now I'm going to prepare to graft these short rows here together with this swatch that I have already here. Right, now, if you remember from my, if you've not seen it, I'm going to link it. I have a tutorial on grafting garter stitch, and in that tutorial I explain that you need to have, when your needles are held parallel, you need to have them, the stitches aligned in the same way, and these are ridge high on the back and they are ridge high on the front. They're easy to see with the blue. The purple ones you should still be able to see. The double leg stitch, the German short row, will have its little bump at the front, sitting amongst the ridges, and then they're ready and lined up, ready to go. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my yarn, find my scissors somewhere. Give me a minute, I've got to find my scissors. Okay, I found my scissors, and now I've cut my yarn that I'm going to be grafting with. Now, a little note here that when you are cutting your yarn to graft, I normally recommend 3 times the length of the stitches that you have on there. So that's 1, 2, 3, and I've put a little bit extra in for good measure, because the last thing you want is to run out of yarn during your graft. You can change your yarn during the graft, but you don't want to be getting into that situation, not at all. Now, you may remember from my grafting video, which I'll link to this, is that you want to have your yarn that you're going to be grafting with ideally on the back, so that you bring it around to the front and you start the graft off that way. However, because I want to show you how I'm tackling the graft of each of these German short rows, the yarn is on the front. So I'm going to do a little trick and anchor it through the back here, so that, and because it's a demo purpose, it doesn't matter if it's not exactly neat. It just means that I can make sure that my yarn is at the back, ready to start the graft. Okay, we're not worrying about neat selvages. I do worry about my neat selvages, but we don't need to worry about my neat selvages. Okay, so from the grafting garter stitch tutorial, remember that the mantra for grafting garter stitch is knit off, purl on. So let's start our selvages by purling on at the front and then purling on at the back. Okay, let's just tighten up those loose threads. That's it. And now we're going to go into knit off, purl on, knit off, purl on, knit off, purl on, knit off, purl on. Now, on the front, we're about to hit a short row. So I'm just going to tighten up these stitches, because you take up the slack every few stitches, no more than about 5 or 6. Don't leave it any longer than that, otherwise it gets difficult to maintain an even tension. Let's do that. Okay, let's pull that through so it doesn't come undone. Okay, so we're going to have a knit off here, and we're going to encounter the German short row here. That's it. And the next step that we're going to be doing with it is actually doing the purl on. So we slip our needle in underneath both legs of the German short row and just purl through. Knit off, purl on at the back. And now we're coming back to that German short row again, and we have to knit in. So we have to insert our needle all the way under. Let's get this nice and clear in the camera. There, knit in, off, purl on. Knit off, purl on. So let's tighten those up and have a look at that first German short row that we have grafted. And we can see it is there. Okay, a little bit of the disappeared stitch is visible there. That'll be all right, because that will disappear once the fabric gets back its squish. We're going to carry on until we get to the next one. Knit off, purl on, knit off, purl on, knit off, purl on, knit off, purl on. Let's take up the slack again, because we're just about to do another short row. We can see that our garter stitch graft is working perfectly there, because we've got our valleys and our ridge in exactly the right place. Knit off there, and again we're going to have to go in under here and purl this one. Now this one, because we worked that row, that short row in blue, the disappeared stitch has got blue and the double leg stitch is in the purple. And you can go in underneath exactly as you would do if you're purling across them. Okay. Knit off, purl on. Whoop. Knit off. So again, you've got to knit, put the needle in knitwise in between both of those parts there of the German short row. It's already been partially done for you because you put that purl on before. All right, so you don't have to worry. You're probably going to catch it. Knit off, purl on, and let's do a little tighten up. Okay, it's coming together there, look. Do a few more, knit off, purl on, knit off, purl on, knit off, purl on, knit off, purl on. Maybe into that. Tom should maybe make that into a little song for me while he's editing this. Okay. Knit off, purl on, knit off, purl on. I'm just going to go straight to the end now because we're almost there. Oop. Knit off, purl on. So that's the last short row in this section worked. Knit off, purl on, 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 and knit off and off. So let's take up our slack here on the remaining stitches that we grafted. So this is the problem when you leave it too long. Now I know what I'm looking for and I still mess it up. If you leave it too long, you can end up tugging at the wrong stitch or the wrong part of the stitch, or your tension can get uneven. So always tighten up the slack every few stitches to avoid running into problems. Okay. And there we have, despite my messy selvages, short rows that have been grafted. We can see all the way through that the garter stitch has maintained its pattern, especially down at this end here. We can see the valleys and the ridges are all in the correct place. And there we have our grafted German short rows. So there you go. Grafting German short rows, it's not difficult. Not really. It might be something unusual or it might be something that sounds scary, but it's really not. Because when we work across a German short row, we just either knit it or purl it. Just treat it as a regular stitch. Do exactly the same as we do in a graft. You don't have to worry about picking up the wrap, saying the wrap and tone, or dealing with the loop of a Japanese short row. You don't have to worry about any of those things. You just treat it as a regular stitch when you are grafting it. The only thing you have to do is to make sure you insert your needle underneath where the double leg stitch and the disappeared stitch connect. But that's no different when you're knitting across it. All right, so if you've been able to knit across a German short row, then you can graft a German short row. Simple as that. Do look at the longer videos that I have on grafting garter stitch and working German short rows, because I think they will give you some extra information. But otherwise, you're all good to go. You can go ahead and work on your sideways knit hats or any other project you might be working on that's got grafting and short rows. If you can do the like, subscribe, share thing, please, that'd be much appreciated. And I'll see you next time for another tutorial. Have fun.